At 9:17 at night, an engineer inside Uber's security team watched a single employee's phone light up with a login request. Then another, then another. Within an hour, that same phone had been hit with more than 100 identical alerts, all asking the same question. Is this you trying to log in? The employee said no every time. But somewhere out there, someone kept asking anyway, over and over, patient in a way that felt almost unnatural. And then, at some point past midnight, exhausted and irritated and certain this had to be some kind of glitch, that employee finally tapped accept. That single tap was all it took. Within minutes, one of the largest technology companies on Earth had been breached from the inside. And the person responsible had not written a single line of exploit code to do it. He had simply worn someone down. And the tool he used to get in the door in the first place had cost him less than the price of a nice dinner. This is the story of how a teenager in the United Kingdom took control of Uber's internal systems, humiliated one of the most valuable startups in Silicon Valley history, and did it all using a technique so simple that security researchers still use it as a warning to every company on Earth. But the hack itself is only half the story. What happened to the person behind it afterward is stranger and darker than almost anyone expected. To understand how this happened, you have to go back a little further, to a hacking group that barely anyone outside the cybersecurity world had heard of before 2022. They called themselves Lapsus $, and unlike most cybercrime organizations, they were not based in some hidden bunker or state-sponsored office. They were a loose, chaotic collection of mostly teenagers, scattered across different countries, who found each other online and discovered they were remarkably good at one specific thing: not writing malware, not exploiting software bugs, talking their way past people. By early 2022, this group had already broken into NVIDIA, one of the most powerful chip makers in the world, and walked away with a terabyte of stolen data, including confidential hardware designs. They had gone after telecom giant BT, and at the center of much of it was a teenager using the online alias Lily Howarth, a name that hid his real identity for months, while investigators scrambled to figure out who or what they were actually dealing with. His real name was Arian Kurtaj, and at the time of the Uber breach, he was 17 years old. Here is where the story gets genuinely strange. Kurtaj was not some reclusive genius coder locked away perfecting exploits. According to people who later studied his case closely, his skill was almost entirely social. He understood something that a lot of security teams still underestimate today. You do not need to break through a digital wall if you can simply convince a human being to open the door for you. The method he used against Uber has a name now. Security researchers call it MFA Fatigue, and once you understand how it works, it is almost uncomfortably simple. Most large companies protect their internal logins with multi-factor authentication, meaning that even if someone steals your password, they still need a second form of approval, usually a push notification sent straight to your phone. It is supposed to be one of the strongest defenses a company can put in place, but it depends entirely on one shaky assumption: that the person receiving the notification will always say no to a request they did not make. Kurtaj did not need to guess a password out of thin air. He first got his hands on stolen login credentials belonging to an Uber contractor, credentials that had likely been swept up in an earlier, unrelated breach and were floating around dark web marketplaces for a price so small it barely registered as a business expense. Just a few dollars, enough to buy a cup of coffee in exchange for a foothold inside one of the most recognizable brands in the world. With those stolen credentials in hand, he still could not get past the second layer of security, so he changed his approach entirely. Instead of trying to defeat the multi-factor system, he decided to exhaust the human being standing behind it. He began sending repeated login approval requests to the contractor's phone, one after another, minute after minute, hour after hour. And when the sheer volume of notifications alone did not work, he escalated. Investigators later revealed that he reached out directly, posing as a member of Uber's own IT department, sending a message that essentially said the requests would stop once the employee simply approved one. It sounds almost absurdly low-tech. No malware, no zero-day exploit, just persistence, a stolen password, and one exhausted employee who wanted the alerts to stop. They approved the request. What happened next moved fast. Once inside, Kurtaj gained access far beyond a single employee's email inbox. He worked his way into Uber's internal Slack channels, the same communication tool used by employees across the company every single day. And then, in a move that felt almost theatrical, he used that internal access to post messages directly to Uber staff, announcing that the company had been breached. Screenshots from inside Uber's own systems began circulating publicly within hours. Engineers reportedly had to shut down internal tools altogether just to contain the damage, uncertain in the moment exactly how deep the intrusion went. For a company valued in the tens of billions of dollars, with entire departments dedicated to cybersecurity, the breach was staggering not because of its sophistication, but because of the complete absence of it. This was not a nation-state attack. This was not months of careful reconnaissance. This was a teenager, alone, using a laptop and a phone number, dismantling the defenses of a global tech giant in a matter of hours. But here is the detail that made investigators' stomachs turn once they pieced together the full picture. Uber was not Kurtaj's only target that year, not even close. Around the same period, he was also connected to breaches at Nvidia and at BT. And separately, he was linked to something that would end up eclipsing even the Uber hack in terms of public attention. An intrusion into Rockstar Games, the studio behind Grand Theft Auto, resulting in the leak of 90 video clips from the still unannounced sequel over a year before the game was ever officially revealed to the public. It became one of the most significant leaks in the history of the video game industry, and Kurtaj was allegedly behind it too. Now here is where the story takes its strangest turn. Kurtaj did not carry out that Rockstar Games hack while free and unsupervised. He carried it out while he was already out on bail for the Uber breach, and while police, aware he might pose a continued risk, had placed him in a hotel room for his own protection after his identity had been exposed and doxed by rival hackers online. From inside that hotel room, using nothing more than a phone and a television connected to the internet, he allegedly reached out to Rockstar's systems and pulled off another breach, while officers believed he had effectively been taken out of the game. When police finally moved to arrest him at that same hotel, a budget travelodge in Oxfordshire, they were not chasing a shadowy figure in some distant server farm. They were arresting a teenager in a small, one-star hotel room, sitting behind the same anonymous online alias that had rattled some of the biggest companies on the planet. The trial that followed was unlike almost anything the UK court system had seen. Psychiatrists determined that Kurtaj, who has severe autism, was not fit to stand trial in the traditional sense, meaning the jury could not be asked whether he was guilty in the ordinary legal meaning of the word. Instead, they were asked a narrower, stranger question. Not guilty or not guilty. Simply, did he do it? In August of 2023, the jury answered yes on 12 separate counts, including hacking, blackmail, and fraud. Because of his diagnosis, Kurtaj avoided a conventional prison sentence entirely. Instead, in December of that same year, a judge ordered that he be held indefinitely in a secure psychiatric hospital, to remain there until doctors determined he no longer posed a danger to the public. During his assessment, experts noted something unsettling. He had expressed a clear intention to return to hacking the moment he was able to. For years, that seemed to be where the story ended. A teenager who had rattled some of the most valuable companies on Earth for almost no financial cost, quietly removed from the world entirely, his fate now in the hands of doctors rather than a prison system. But the story did not stay closed. Recent reporting has revealed that Kurtaj has since been released from that secure hospital and is now once again moving through the legal system while a retrial is prepared. The timing feels almost impossible to script. His case is resurfacing at the exact moment the long-awaited sequel to the game he once leaked is finally set to arrive in stores, years after his stolen clips first appeared online. So think about what this story actually proves. A company with a multi-billion-dollar valuation, an entire security division, and one of the most trusted authentication systems in the industry was not defeated by a mastermind. It was defeated by patience, a handful of dollars spent on stolen credentials, and one tired employee who just wanted the notifications to stop. The lesson security experts still teach today, because of this case, is not about firewalls or encryption at all. It is about human exhaustion, and how the most expensive breach in a company's history can sometimes begin with something as small as a single weary tap of accept.